My name is Casey Burkholder, and Jennifer Thompson and I recently edited a book with Routledge called Fieldnotes in Qualitative Education and Social Science Research: Approaches, Practices, and Ethical Considerations. Today I'm going to talk with Andrea Wojcik about her chapter with Rachel Allison and Anna Harris called Bumbling Along Together: Producing Collaborative Field Notes. Through multisensory activities undertaken in different research contexts in a comparative study on medical education in Ghana, Hungary, and the Netherlands, Andrea, Rachel, and Anna describe the relationship between bumbling and accountability in producing collaborative field notes with a focus on instructing, sharing, and discussing research material. So, Andrea, can you talk about how you take field notes?
Yeah, so of course, as you so nicely introduced, our chapter is actually how we took field notes as a team, so with my co-authors. And that's for Anna's ERC, European Research Council funded project. And that was very different than what I would describe as my process as taking field notes as an individual researcher. And as you said, that's because we all went on fieldwork simultaneously in different and very distant field sites. So we knew before we went on fieldwork that we wanted to share our insights with one another or share our field sites with one another, both because we wanted to be able to inspire each other with our observations, but also because we wanted to use each other's work and experiences to explore the similarities and specificities of our own sites. So basically, we wanted to lean into these dynamics of team ethnography that are kind of already pointed out in the literature on team ethnography. But at the same time, we were very aware that fieldwork is very, very time consuming. So we knew we weren't going to be able to read these pages and pages of kind of field diaries if we were to be able to send them to each other. And we had this additional hurdle of being interested in how medical students learn sensory skills. And the written word isn't always super great for conveying the sensory. So what we did was we came up with what we called activities, weekly activities, and what we refer to in the chapter as collaborative field notes. And then what that meant was we often, we sent instructions to one another once a week, and those were things like stand on a table and take a picture, or take 5 pictures of smelly objects in the environment and put some captions under them. And then these were uploaded to a map or a folder, sorry, switch to Dutch there for a second, to a folder, and we could all view them kind of in our own time. And then later we would also be able to discuss them either over the phone or when we returned from the field in person. So it was a lot of different media that we were doing, exploring different media and sharing kind of these strange short activities with each other.
Amazing. I've completely used your chapter in a methods course already. I'm so interested in particular in the different modalities that you employ in the chapter and how just the same, like the smellscape, for example, how that prompt made you show so many different kinds of smelly objects, things that you wouldn't have captured in just reviewing each other's like written notes. It's super interesting. So what does your chapter tell us about field notes?
Yeah, so we directly engage with a piece by Janelle Taylor called The Demise of the Bumbler and the Croc. And in this piece, she really does a lovely job of pinpointing some changes happening in higher education, especially for anthropology and medical education. And in it, she writes about bumbling as a kind of ethnographic method that values the uncertainties of fieldwork, but also learning from experiences. And she argues quite convincingly, I think, that this bumbling is being kind of formally taken out of anthropology and anthropology education. And what's replacing it is this kind of regime of accountability. And I think anybody who's done research or had to submit a proposal is very familiar with these regimes of accountability, where you basically have to predict, or at least on paper, predict kind of everything about your project before you actually go on fieldwork. So the results, who's going to be influenced and how, and as well as how your research is going to change the world, you know, like these big, big things. So what we tried to do in the chapter was to reassert the value of bumbling. And we did that by exploring how we bumbled along as a team, and we found that really our collaborative field notes heightened our bumbling in the field. So not only were we all kind of just struggling to get through our daily routines and field, you know, research individually, but you know, one day a week someone could send me instructions from 1,000 kilometers away or more, telling me that I needed to do this activity based on a topic or a question that I had not even thought about. And I would just do it, and I would trust that something would come of it, whether that be insights for my own project or insights for my collaborators' project, and not necessarily that that would happen immediately, right? I would trust maybe down the line, you know, years after field work, we would get something from, you know, this work that we were doing together. And beyond that, the activities pushed us outside of our comfort zones in terms of methods. So as you said, we explored a lot of different modalities. We focused a lot on video, drawing, and photography. And, you know, some of us had more experiences with those than others, but we kind of just jumped into it. And so the first point I think that our chapter really makes is that field notes, as much as any other part of fieldwork, are a locus of bumbling. And then the second one is that we realized that by bumbling through our collaborative field note practices, we were actually becoming more accountable to one another. And so that kind of goes back to Janelle Taylor's piece, and we kind of, we try to make the point that bumbling and accountability don't always have to be directly opposed to one another. They can actually support each other.
Mm. What should researchers know about field notes?
Yeah, so I think for me there are 2 points to this, and it's kind of what I've personally learned about field notes, and then what I think our chapter really brings out about teamwork. And personally, you know, I take field notes in a quite traditional way. I observe something or experience something and write about it in detail. And doing these activities with one another really showed me that field notes can be something else. And they can be creative and they can be fun. But also beyond that, if you take field notes in a different way, if you take field notes with different modalities, these ways of looking at objects, like you said, can make you question your own observations and disturb your analyses in productive ways. And, you know, that's a point that people who use visual methods and sensory ethnographers, you know, very much already know. So I'm not blowing open the water or something with this. But that's a really important point, and, you know, it brings us back to writing culture from like the 1980s already about how we produce material and what kind of representations, you know, what we can know and how we know, and the representations that result from that. And then the second one for me is indeed related to team ethnography. So, and this is, I think, a really important point for these kind of big team projects. I'm not so sure what's going on in North America. I've been on the European continent for too long, but these team projects are really, really popular here. So if you really want to, and I think if the principal investigator really wants to do these projects in a collaborative way, I think our chapter really shows that you have to consider the means of producing and sharing material as part of that collaborative effort. And I think we've shown that you can support that collaboration in a positive way, but it's also possible to, I think of ways that, you know, maybe project directors are more kind of dictatorial or goal-oriented, or, you know, in some way that this kind of sharing and producing undermines collaborative projects. So yeah, so I think there's really, you have to weigh and think about whether you, how you collect material, how you share it, and how that could support or undermine collaborative projects.